Who is universally loved, but actually an asshole? Oprah. She spent decades getting paid by every quack with a pseudoscientific health product to appear as guests on her show. It's no wonder her apprentices are a dubious psychiatrist and the quack-ass weirdo doctor who continued her business of using the trust of gullible Americans to sell snake oil. Not to mention she stood on the heads of those little people. Bill Burr legendary Conan interview. Watching Burr bust up a professional talk show host to the point he is holding his belly, repeating what Burr says to try and stop laughing, and wiping tears from his caked-on makeup speaks volumes to how good that interview actually was. Conan was a seasoned vet and he was losing it, as good as Norm on the Night with Courtney Thorne-Smith. Conan as in always will be my favorite late-night host because he was hilarious but he had the best interviews and letting his guest be hilarious without pandering. Genuinely great dude. This question needs an "explain your answer" added to the end. This happens anytime there is pop culture question. Somebody spouts out a name, everyone goes, yep, true, and upvotes with no real explanation or even confirmation if it's what you think it is. Before it became public knowledge, I always had to tell people what an asshole Bill Cosby was 20 plus years ago. Old guy here who can remember when Lisa Bonet said like 30 years ago that she didn't think highly of Bill Cosby and the whole world came down on her like, how can this entitled little brat who owes her whole career to Bill Cosby not love him? Turns out she was just a better judge of character than most. A former coworker of mine knew Lisa way back in the Cosby Show days, and she said Lisa talked about what a creep Cosby was back then. I certainly hope he never molested her or any of his TV kids, but if he didn't, he was still enough of a creep that Lisa Bonet was aware of it and told her friends about it. My boss told me at least 10 years before the story broke that Bill Cosby was no family man like he portrayed on The Cosby Show. He said in the 60s and 70s Cosby was at the Playboy Mansion, while he was married, and punched one of the Smothers Brothers. I was not surprised when Hannibal Buress publicized Cosby raped women. My cat. Our cats. Are, suddenly communism. Until recently, Ellen. I cannot speak for the rest of society, but I certainly never liked her. She has dead eyes. I can't explain it but she does. She has dead eyes. I can't explain it but she does. Ye don't have to explain it. Anyone who's seen her face, which is a lot, knows exactly what ye mean. Jerry from Tom and Jerry. I completely agree with you. I always felt bad for Tom. Tom was just being a good cat trying to get rid of a pest. Jerry clearly had advanced intelligence and could have relocated literally anywhere else with ease, yet he chose to stay and gleefully tortured an innocent cat for years. I've got my suspicions about Steve Harvey. The audacity to be married like 4 times, then write a book about marriage. Fuck you know about marriage, Steve? What not to do, I guess. Ellen's fall from grace has been well-deserved and overdue. Edit. Just to clarify, she's not a comic book villain like Bezos or Dick Cheney, she's just an immature narcissist with zero tact or grasp on reality. There are plenty of good, clips, compilations on YouTube that shows her wildly out-of-touch behavior. My personal least favorite is her singing to a sleeping baby in a drugstore through a megaphone as the horrified mother is in complete disbelief. Well, she was always off, that's why most fellow comedians didn't associate with her much even when she got famous. Maya Angelou was a raging bitch. The gal in the office next to mine had to coordinate her visit to our university. She said in her 30-year career of coordinating VIP celebrity speakers Maya Angelou was the only one though treated her like absolute shit. Maya Angelou did a lecture at my college and a student asked a question that I thought was completely reasonable, something along the lines of, do you ever get discouraged during the writing process and how do you keep going? And she started berating him for asking such a stupid question and was like, look at my body of work. Where would you get the idea that I'm ever discouraged? It was really weird. Hello. I respect you and would like to learn from you in this educational setting you agreed to attend. Fuck you. Steve Jobs, people worship him, and I understand why to some extent. He revolutionized technology, but he was very emotionally abusive to his daughter. She released a memoir IIRC, very disturbing stuff. He was a grade A dick to his daughter's mother. He left both of them on welfare and food stamps. He was a grade A dick to everyone. Steve Jobs was huffing his own farts until the day he died. That was his cancer treatment of choice. Imagine being CEO and co-founder of a multi-billion-dollar company, be seen as chic in the technology world, leader of simple interfaces. And you die because you reject your doctor's advice on pancreatic cancer, thinking juices and shit will work instead. Gets the only type of possibly treatable pancreatic cancer, ignores doctors. Does holistic garbage, gets worse, goes to actual doctors for treatment, told it's too late, gets a liver transplant because his wealth allowed him to be anywhere in the country within the required time limit, lives a little longer, still dies. Dr. Phil. He takes advantage of mentally ill people for money. Edit. He isn't universally loved, but he is very successful and is good at hiding his dark side. They specifically use drugs and alcohol to provoke behaviors they want them to exhibit, so he can take the moral high ground whilst exploiting their struggles. Like when Todd Herzog, a recovering alcoholic, came on to talk about his alcoholism and showed up drunk. He got to the set sober to find liquor bottles and Red Bull in his dressing room and a staffer giving him a Xanax before taping. Which meant Phil could tell him how disappointed he was in his relapse whilst the man sobbed and asked forgiveness, and still got to play the wise professional looking out for others part. Edit. Did not expect this to blow up. Many are asking for sources, so here's a report looking into the subject. Edit 2. Ionisms 10 added a link to the episode. Isn't that fucking illegal? Question mark. Wilson. The way he just floated away at the end like their friendship meant nothing. What a dick. Such a smug look on his face too. What a total prick. Michael Jordan. In the mid-90s, a local magazine poll voted him the meanest man in Chicago. Everyone I knew in the Chicago area had a Jordan story from the 1990s. It was almost a fucking opener joke. Did Jordan screw your parents' business or act like an ass towards y'all? How many times? Pippen came up often, but not nearly to the same extent. Having worked with them both, Pippen is 100% the bigger asshole. And an idiot. No Tippin Pippen. Jimmy Savile. Was loved. Died. Found out he was a child predator. I've heard that a good amount of people felt weird about him. John Lydon of the Sex Pistols was banned from the BBC for speaking on the massive rumors that were moving through the entertainment industry about him. Very likely that TV kept it under wraps because Savile brought them loads of money. Important to note that that interview was in fucking 1978. Imagine how many more victims suffered in those 33 years between John Lydon being censored and that piece of shit Jimmy Savile descending to the deepest depths of hell. John Lennon. He told his son Julian, "I hate the way you fucking laugh." Hey Jude was made because of Julian. Yeah, written by Paul, who tried to be a bit fatherly to him, seeing as how John couldn't be bothered. Paul seems like an honesty nice dude that somehow stayed innocent and naive despite his fame. He said that he and his wife Linda only ever spent 8 nights apart their entire relationship. After she died and he remarried, he was so trusting he didn't make her sign a prenup. She turned out to be a gold digger. I watched his Netflix special and he talked about what a good family life he had growing up, and he thought everyone had that kind of home life until he met John. John grew up in an abusive home. That explains a bit why Paul was so much better to Julian than his own father. Doesn't excuse John's behavior, but it makes it more understandable. SpongeBob. Imagine living near him. Squidward is worse. I have one in my building. That asshole was squeaking and squawking on his clarinet at 10:30. Regularly. Absolutely awful shrieking, old creaky door noises. I had to take a few recordings of this happening late at night and send it to administration. Pretty much all your favorite rock stars from the 70s and 80s had underage girlfriends. Some even adopted them, from as young as 14, and became their legal guardians so they could live with and have sex with them, and essentially keep them trapped at home to not get caught. Steven Tyler and Jimmy Page stick out, but Bowie and Prince get dis. Honorable mentions. I'm sure that's just a start. Edit. My bad, the Bowie claim has yet to be corroborated. Edit 2. Not just the 70s and 80s, rock stars for all recorded history. Seinfeld dated a 17-year-old when he was 38. 16. So did Paul Walker in his 30s. Probably 90% of celebrities. Not Keanu. He's the whole 10%. Don't forget Brendan Fraser and #X200B. Keanu equals 5%, Brendan equals 5%. Keanu equals 1.5%, Brendan equals 1.5%, Dolly Parton equals 1.5%? Equals 0.5% ETA. I love that everyone's commenting other good people as the fourth person. Reminds me that there's good people out there. Nicki Minaj. She's a rape apologist, so yeah, asshole. 1000%. Defending Saw from her brother and husband? I want whatever she's smoking to be that delusional. Jackie Chan, I wouldn't say he's universally loved, but definitely way too popular in the West. It's pretty common knowledge here in Hong Kong. Abusive husband and father, effectively disowned an illegitimate daughter, lots of whoring and alcohol abuse, sold out Hong Kong during political unrest in favor of China, yet was banned from the Chinese Communist Party due to moral failings. Typo. You just ruined my childhood hero, but for the best, I guess. Rachel Ray. Loved her show, until I went to see her live. In between takes she was a very not nice person. I knew someone who did production work for Food Network in the early 2000s. Most of the personalities at the time were actually pretty lovely, but apparently Rachel Ray was borderline despised by the film and production crews. She was just generally known as a mean person to work with. Homelander edit. Tie for the awards. You guys are the real heroes. They love my ideals, they just don't like the word Nazi. Scary ass show, I love it. Gandhi. I learned that from Civilization 6. Drake. Everyone conveniently forgot that he's a predator who tried to groom Millie Bobby Brown, but instead made him into some wholesome meme. Fuck Drake. Billie Eilish too. Edit. Just to clarify, Billie Eilish didn't do anything wrong. Drake tried grooming her the same way he did with Millie Bobby Brown. I'm rocking a bad sinus headache right now, and for a full minute I honestly thought you meant Billie Eilish tried to groom Millie Bobby Brown. Eric Clapton. What a douchebag he turned out to be. He's an oddity. His racist, coked-out rant in the 70s on stage sparked the Rock Against Racism movement. It's bizarre considering he idolizes and owes much of his success to American black blues artists.